We called it a few weeks ago, but confirmation is finally here. Aston Martin will be ditching Mercedes from 2026 and using Honda engines instead. The ramifications of this are massive, and this is Aston Martin's next step to becoming a top team, not just an overperforming midfield team. With Honda, they have the chance to break the big three that have dominated Formula 1 for so many years, and prove they are a serious title contender for the future. But why ditch Mercedes, who are famous for their overpowered engines? And why pick Honda, a company that didn't want anything to do with the sport just a couple of years ago? You'll have to stick around to find out. Honda are to return to Formula 1 as the works engine manufacturer for the Aston Martin team in 2026. The partnership represents a hugely significant step in the team's aim, made in 2021, of competing for championships within 5 years. The move is also a major U-turn for Honda, who only pulled out of F1 at the end of 2021, just as the company delivered what was considered to be the best engine on the grid. The partnership, which was announced on Wednesday, will be exclusive to Aston Martin, who are currently supplied with customer engines by Mercedes, for whom they also source their gearbox and suspension. Aston Martin's group CEO, Martin Whitmarsh, who was McLaren team principal between 2008 and 2014, emphasized why they needed the manufacturer deal with Honda. It is very, very difficult to consistently win championships without a full works relationship, which is why we've made this decision, he said. Whitmarsh believed that the ability to compete at the front required a works engine manufacturer, and with that, the team bringing all parts for manufacture in-house at their brand new factory and wind tunnel facility in Silverstone, which will become fully operational this year. It's a big challenge, he said. This is about the growing up of this team. You set out to win in F1. That means beating existing partners, and in order to do that, we've got to be independent. The nature of F1 is if you want to win, it means beating Mercedes, and it is extremely difficult to beat an organization as good as Mercedes if you are reliant on them for intellectual property, facilities, and components. We are here to win, and therefore we have to have the complete integration of facilities, processes, and approach. Buying an engine from another team shouldn't really be a disadvantage, but as much as Mercedes have said it isn't a negative for Aston Martin, it is. Up until this point, Aston Martin have also been insistent that buying engines from Mercedes isn't holding them back, but now they don't have to keep the German manufacturer sweet anymore, they aren't holding back. Since the team was purchased by Lawrence Stroll in 2018 and rebranded as Aston Martin, it has benefited from significant investment. It is in the process of completing the first phase of construction in a massive expansion of its Silverstone base, to which it plans to relocate the aerodynamic development it currently conducts in Mercedes wind tunnel. Drop Mercedes as an engine manufacturer, they probably want to get out of their factory as quickly as possible. Merc aren't going to be happy about losing that massive stream of income, that's for sure. But why has Aston Martin made this decision? I gave you that quote from the Aston Martin CEO earlier, saying it is incredibly hard to win a championship as a customer team, and that is why they've dropped Mercedes. But what about that relationship makes it such a challenge? Well, let me explain. Aston Martin buy their engines from Mercedes, and have done so since the second season of the Force India Formula 1 team in 2009. So Mercedes design the perfect engine for the Mercedes car, and then sell it on at a price set by the FIA to a number of teams. How the engine is constructed and how all the parts fit together is decided by Mercedes. How the engine is constructed has a massive impact on the rest of the car. The current Merc engine will have been designed with a zero-pod design in mind. Things like how it fits in the chassis and its center of gravity will have been decided based on how it fits into Mercedes' car, not Aston Martin's. The engine also has a big impact on how the gearbox and drivetrain fit in with the rear suspension as well. That is why Aston Martin buys their rear suspension from Mercedes, because it fits with the engine and gearbox and drivetrain. A Formula 1 car is basically a massive game of Tetris, and like with Tetris, if you change the shape of one block, the entire board is affected. This means that Aston Martin's design options are limited by Mercedes, not something an F1 designer wants, especially one as good and as inventive as Dan Fallows. The disadvantages of being a customer team go far further than just design limitations though. Mercedes also gets the first choice of engines that come out of the factory. No two F1 engines are identical. Each one has its own imperfections, meaning that when they get put into the cars, one could produce 1% more power than another, or be 1% more durable. Marginal differences, but in Formula 1, that is important, and it means Aston Martin are at a disadvantage to Mercedes, even though they use the same engine. Despite both sides saying the opposite in the past, Mercedes are holding back Aston Martin, and the fact that Aston Martin are beating them on track at the moment is a massive embarrassment for the Silver Arrows. Mercedes may have dominated the sport from 2014 to 2021, thanks to their engine, but that doesn't help Aston Martin win a championship, which is what F1 is all about. The most interesting part of this announcement is that Honda will be working with Aston Martin exclusively. This is the same relationship they've had with Red Bull for many years now, and it is hugely beneficial to Aston Martin. Working exclusively with an engine manufacturer means that anything Aston Martin wants happens. They get to decide how the engine is laid out in the car, meaning the design team can design their aero package however they want, and then Honda can build the engine to fit into that design. It also means they get the best engines from the factory. No longer will they be sold Mercedes throwaways. That extra 1% power or durability could be the difference between a race win and a retirement. That's massive. You might be asking yourself at this point, why are Honda making engines again? Didn't they say they didn't want to be involved in the sport anymore? Yeah, they did. Right before Red Bull won a Constructors' Championship with their engine. It was the perfect quit while ahead move. But from 2026, F1 engines are changing, and that has Honda interested again. Honda Racing Corporation President Koji Watanabe said, "In pursuit of its goal in achieving carbon neutrality by 2030, starting in the 2026 season, the FIA will mandate the use of 100% carbon-neutral fuel, and the deployment of electrical power will be increased significantly, by 3 times from the current regulations. With this massive increase in electrical power, the key to winning in F1 will be a compact, lightweight, and high-power motor with a high-performance battery that is capable of swiftly handling high power output, as well as the energy management technology. We believed this know-how gained from this new challenge has the potential to be applied directly to a future mass-production electric vehicle." Honda has a lot to gain from being in Formula 1. Like Watanabe says, the electric engine innovations and sustainable fuel technology from the sport will be able to be used by Honda in the road cars in the future. That doesn't mean they won't want something extra from Aston Martin, apart from the money, of course. They actually have some ideas on who they would want driving for the team. Current Aston Martin driver Fernando Alonso embarrassed Honda at the home Japanese Grand Prix in 2015 when he complained over the radio about having a GP2 engine. In March 2017, with McLaren and Honda heading for a split, Alonso declared, "We have only one problem, and that is the power unit. There's no reliability and there is no power." According to Honda, if Alonso is still with the team in 2026, that isn't a problem. "We have no objections whatsoever in him driving," Watanabe said. They might not have objections, but they do have a preference. During an answer about Honda's thoughts on reuniting with current Aston Martin driver Fernando Alonso, Koji Watanabe added, "And of course there are Japanese drivers who would be challenging, and we would like them to become candidates." Asked directly whether Honda wanted Aston Martin to run Yuki Tsunoda, Watanabe said that while it was too early for serious discussions about 2026 drivers, Honda hoped Tsunoda would at least be in contention. "He is originally from our school, and in Formula 1 he is doing very well," said Watanabe. "We're very happy to see him succeeding. But talking about the future, we still have 3 years to go, so it's too early for us to say what will happen. I don't think it's the time to talk about this, but we're hoping that he will become a candidate, but it's up to the team to make the final decision." Tsunoda has improved massively this season, and Red Bull are known for creating incredible F1 drivers. By 2026, Tsunoda could be the real deal and a potential World Championship contender. I know he isn't there yet, but I can see the path to it happening. If Honda really wants Tsunoda, who do you think gets the boot from Aston Martin to make space for him? I know you would all like to see Lance Stroll step aside, but will his dad really kick him off his own team? Is Lawrence Stroll actually that ruthless, or is family more important than a world championship to him? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. And until next time, drive safe and bye for now.